Can I share this table? 5 words that changed 3 souls forever. A one-legged girl walks into a crowded New Orleans cafe, desperate to feel close to the family she lost in flames that took everything. A vampire king and his half-mortal daughter sit at a corner table, hidden in plain sight, unaware they're about to meet someone who will shatter the centuries-old walls around their immortal hearts and rebuild their world with the fragile, fierce light of human resilience. Before we continue, let us know in the comment section what time it is and where you are watching from. And remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of the story. Now, let's continue. The crescent moon was packed that Saturday evening in late October. New Orleans' perfect autumn twilight, that magical hour when the heat finally broke and the French Quarter came alive, had drawn everyone out. Tourists with cameras, artists with sketchbooks, locals. Every table was full, every wrought iron chair taken. Roderick Castor glanced up from his untouched espresso and caught sight of her. A young woman on forearm crutches was navigating through the crowded cafe, her bright red V-neck shirt a splash of color against the muted amber lighting. Blonde hair pulled into a high ponytail, eyes scanning desperately for an empty seat. She moved with practiced efficiency despite the crutches, her black mechanical prosthetic leg catching the cafe's vintage Edison bulbs with each step. But what struck Roderick most, even after 3 centuries of observing humans, was the expression on her face. Fierce determination mixed with something that looked like barely contained grief, and underneath it all, a defiant refusal to give up. And then the lady at the museum said I couldn't touch the painting because it was very, very old, like from the 1700s. 7-year-old Luna was in the middle of an animated story, her curly blonde hair bouncing as she gestured wildly from her perch on his lap. But Daddy, that's not even as old as you, right? Roderick smiled faintly at his daughter, a finger to his lips in their practiced gesture for discretion, but kept watching the woman. She approached a table near the vintage brick wall where a group of college students sat hunched over laptops and textbooks. He saw her speak to them, saw one girl glance up, take in the crutches and prosthetic leg, and shake her head with barely concealed discomfort before quickly looking away. The young woman on crutches nodded, apologized, and moved to another table where a well-dressed couple sat close together, fingers intertwined. Again, she was refused, this time with a dismissive wave, and the man actually turning his chair to block the empty seat. Roderick felt something he hadn't experienced in decades, a flash of genuine anger at his fellow cafe patrons. He watched her shoulders slump slightly, watched the way she gripped her crutches a little tighter, as if they were the only thing holding her up emotionally, as well as physically. Daddy, are you even listening? Luna's voice pulled him back, her small hand on his cheek turning his face toward her. Of course, little moon. The painting wasn't as old as... That was like 5 minutes ago. Luna huffed with the dramatic exasperation only a 7-year-old could muster. Now I'm telling you about the skeleton in the pirate exhibit, but Roderick's attention had drifted again. The woman on crutches was standing in the middle of the cafe now, near the antique coffee grinder display, looking around with an expression that pierced even his carefully guarded heart. Lost, alone, searching for something or someone who was no longer there. Like she was about to give up on something desperately important. For a brief moment, their gazes met across the crowded cafe. She took a breath, straightened her shoulders, adjusted her crutches, and started walking directly toward them. Toward their shadowed corner table that other patrons seemed to unconsciously avoid, where the lighting was always slightly dimmer, where the supernatural and the mundane shared space in careful balance. Luna stopped mid-sentence, her story about pirate skeletons forgotten, and turned to watch the approaching woman with open curiosity. "Excuse me," she said softly when she reached their corner table by the tall window overlooking Chartres Street. Her voice was steady despite the emotion trembling underneath. "I'm so sorry to bother you. I know this is probably strange, but would you mind if I shared this table with you? The cafe is completely full, and her voice caught. I really need to be here today. It's very important to me. Roderick looked into the young woman's eyes and saw something that decided him in an instant. Not the desperation or grief, but the steel underneath. A refusal to be broken that reminded him of soldiers he'd fought beside in wars whose names most had forgotten. Please, he said, his voice carrying a warmth that surprised even him. Join us. Relief flooded her face, so completely that she had to blink back tears. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Ella.
Ella es. Roderick Castor. And this, he gestured to the small girl on his lap, is my daughter, Luna. Ella carefully maneuvered herself into the chair across from them, leaning her crutches against the window frame. As she settled, Roderick noticed how practiced the motion was, how little fuss she made despite the obvious challenge. I like your shirt, Luna announced immediately, her child's directness cutting through the adult tension. Red is my second favorite color. Pink is first, obviously. She tugged at her bright pink hoodie for emphasis. Ella smiled, a real smile that transformed her whole face. Obviously, pink is an excellent choice. And you have a robot leg, Luna continued, leaning forward with unfiltered fascination. That's so cool. Can it do special things? Like, can you jump really high or run super fast? Luna, Roderick said gently, but Ella laughed, a soft, genuine sound. It's okay, really. I wish it did special things, but mostly it just helps me walk. Though it does look pretty cool, doesn't it? It looks amazing, Luna said seriously. Like you're part superhero. Something in Ella's expression softened even further. No one's ever said that before. Usually people just stare and look away. People are often uncomfortable with what they don't understand, Roderick said quietly, his accent lending the words a weight that came from experience. He signaled the server, a young man who approached their table with visible reluctance, never quite looking directly at Roderick. What would you like, Miss Hayes? Just coffee, please. Black. And beignet.
Luna insisted.
You have to have beignet. They're the best thing in the whole world. Daddy always gets them for me on Saturdays. Then beignet it is, Roderick told the server, who nodded quickly and retreated. Ella watched the exchange with curiosity, her artist's eye taking in details, Roderick's unusual pallor, the old-fashioned cut of his black velvet jacket, the way the surrounding tables seemed to unconsciously lean away from theirs as if respecting an invisible boundary. Have you been coming here long? She asked. Long enough, Roderick replied with a slight smile. It's become our tradition. Luna and we appreciate places that exist between worlds, old and new, tourist and local, day and night. We come every Saturday when the sun goes down, Luna added, swinging her legs. Twilight is the best time for everything. The beignet arrived in a cloud of powdered sugar, and Luna immediately reached for one, getting white dust all over her pink hoodie. She offered the plate to Ella with both hands, a gesture of sharing that felt almost ceremonial. Thank you, Ella said, taking one carefully. She broke off a small piece but didn't eat it, just held it between her fingers. Luna tilted her head, studying Ella with the unnerving perceptiveness children sometimes possessed. Why are you here all by yourself? Where's your family? Luna, Roderick said softly, but Ella shook her head. It's okay. She set down the beignet and took a breath. Today is the 1-year anniversary of the fire that took my family. My parents and my little sister, Mia. She was 9. The words hung in the air between them, heavy and terrible. Luna's face crumbled, her eyes filling with tears with the immediate, uncomplicated empathy only children could manage. They died? All of them? All of them, Ella confirmed, her voice barely above a whisper. Our house was just a few blocks from here, over on Dauphine Street. I grew up in this neighborhood. We used to come to this cafe, sometimes on special occasions. I needed to be close to where we were together. She looked down at her hands, at the powdered sugar dusting her fingers. Everyone thinks I should move on, go somewhere new, start over. But I can't leave them behind. Does that make sense? Roderick felt something shift in his chest, an ache he thought he'd buried centuries ago. He had witnessed countless human tragedies, had become numb to mortal grief out of necessity. But something about Ella's specific courage, coming here alone to sit with her pain rather than flee from it, moved him profoundly. It makes perfect sense, he said, his voice carrying the weight of his own losses. The ones we love deserve to be remembered, to be honored. Geography is not abandonment, but neither is it betrayal to carry them with you wherever you go. Ella looked up at him, surprised by the depth of understanding in his words. You talk like someone who knows, she said quietly.
I do.
He didn't elaborate, but something in his expression told her he wasn't speaking theoretically. Luna climbed down from her father's lap and walked around the table. Without asking permission, she crawled into Ella's lap and wrapped her small arms around her neck, hugging her fiercely. I'm sorry about your family, Luna whispered against Ella's shoulder. I'm sorry you're sad. Ella's carefully maintained composure finally cracked. She wrapped her arms around Luna and let the tears come, silent and steady, while this child she'd just met offered comfort without condition or awkwardness. Roderick watched them, then quietly signaled the server again. Another plate of beignets, please. For sharing sorrows. The phrase was old, from his mortal life in a small French village whose name had been erased from maps centuries ago. His mother had always said that grief was lighter when shared with bread and kindness. When the second plate arrived, he pushed it to the center of the table. Ella had composed herself, though Luna remained on her lap, small fingers wrapped around Ella's hand. To those we carry with us, Roderick said softly, raising his untouched espresso. Ella raised her coffee cup, understanding the ritual instinctively. To those we carry with us. They ate beignet in comfortable silence while twilight deepened outside the window, and something sacred passed between three strangers at a corner table, the beginning of an unexpected family. Luna was still nestled in Ella's lap, her small hand playing with the edge of Ella's red shirt, when she asked the question with the devastating simplicity only a child could manage. Do you miss them every day? Ella's breath caught. She looked down at Luna's upturned face, those wide eyes full of genuine curiosity and compassion, and found herself unable to offer anything but the raw truth. Every single day. Every single moment. What happened? Luna asked softly. In the fire? Roderick started to intervene, but Ella was already speaking, the words tumbling out as if they'd been waiting for someone brave enough to ask. It was a gas leak. Old pipes in an old house. It happened at night, around 2 a.m. Her voice was steady but distant, as if she were narrating someone else's story. I woke up to my dad shaking me, screaming at me to get up. The whole house was filled with smoke. I couldn't see anything, could barely breathe. She stared past them, past the cafe, into that terrible night. He dragged me to my bedroom window. I was screaming for my mom, for Mia. He just kept saying, I'll get them, I'll get them. And then he threw me out the second-story window into the bushes below. Luna's grip tightened on Ella's hand. I landed wrong. There was this horrible sound. I didn't even realize it was my own leg breaking. I tried to stand up, to go back inside, but I couldn't. And then I saw my dad's face in the window. He was yelling something I couldn't hear over the roar of the flames. He turned away, going back for them. And then, her voice finally broke. The house collapsed. Just folded in on itself. A burning beam fell on my leg, trapped me there in the bushes. I watched it all come down with them inside. The neighbors found me. I don't remember much after that. Surgery, ICU, waking up to find out my leg was gone, and so was everyone I loved. Tears streamed down her face now, unchecked. The guilt is the worst part. Why did he save me? Why not Mia? She was just a baby. I should have fought harder, should have gone back.
No.
Roderick's voice cut through her spiral with quiet authority. Your father made a choice born of love. To dishonor that choice by wishing yourself dead is to render his sacrifice meaningless. Ella looked at him through her tears, startled by the fierce conviction in his words. He leaned forward, his pale eyes holding hers with an intensity that seemed to see straight through to her soul. I know what it means to lose a mortal family, Miss Hayes. To be the one who survives when everyone else is gone. The pain doesn't disappear. It becomes part of you, changes shape, transforms from sharp agony to dull ache to something almost like a companion. There was something in the way he said mortal family that struck her as odd, but she was too raw to examine it. How long ago? She whispered. When did you lose them? Long enough that the edges have softened, he said carefully. But I remember every face, every voice. Time doesn't erase love. It just teaches you to carry it differently. Luna shifted in Ella's lap, looking up at her father with new understanding, then back to Ella. You can carry them with us, too. We're good at carrying things. Aren't we, Daddy? Roderick smiled at his daughter with such tender affection that Ella felt her heart crack open even further. Yes, little moon. We are very good at carrying things. The cafe had begun to empty as full darkness approached, the dinner crowd dispersing into the French Quarter's night. Roderick made a decision that surprised even himself, something he hadn't done in decades. Miss Hayes, he said, his formality somehow fitting despite the intimacy of what they'd shared. Would you care to join us for a walk? Luna and I have a tradition of exploring the Quarter at this hour. The city reveals itself differently after dark. Ella hesitated, glancing at her crutches, and he immediately understood. We move at our own pace, he added gently.
No rushing.
Luna stops every few feet anyway to examine things. It's true, Luna confirmed, climbing down from Ella's lap. I collect stuff. Daddy says I'm a very serious curator of small treasures. Ella found herself smiling, truly smiling, for the first time in longer than she could remember. Then yes, I'd love to. They stepped out into the velvet night, and Ella was struck by how different the French Quarter felt at twilight. The harsh edges of day had softened, replaced by golden lamplight and long shadows that seemed to move with their own rhythm. Roderick walked beside her, matching his stride to hers without making it obvious. Luna skipped ahead, stopping to collect a purple flower petal that had fallen from a wrought iron balcony. This city has always belonged more to the night than the day, Roderick said as they walked down Royal Street. In 1853, during the yellow fever epidemic, the streets were nearly empty at noon but full of life after sunset. People believed the night air was safer. He paused. Of course, they were wrong about the cause, but right about the comfort of darkness. Ella glanced at him curiously. You talk about it like you were there. I'm a historian, he said smoothly, but something flickered in his expression. I've studied this city extensively. Sometimes the research becomes so vivid it feels like memory. They passed Jackson Square and Roderick pointed to an old building. That cafe there, different name now, but same location, that's where the Creole aristocracy used to duel over matters of honor. I could tell you stories of at least a dozen men who died over insults that meant nothing by morning. The way he spoke, with such specific detail and a tinge of what sounded like personal disapproval, sent a small shiver down Ella's spine. Luna had collected a handful of petals and presented them to Ella like precious gems. These are for you, for your table at home. So you remember tonight. Thank you, sweetheart, Ella said, genuinely touched. She tucked them carefully into her pocket. What do you do? Roderick asked. For work, I mean. Graphic design. Freelance. All remote. She paused, trying to find the right words. It's been good since the fire because I can work from anywhere, don't have to face people. But it's also isolating. I haven't had a real conversation with anyone in months. Everyone I knew before, they didn't know how to act around me after. Like tragedy might be contagious. People fear what reminds them of their own mortality, Roderick observed, then seemed to catch himself. Their own vulnerability. They walked past a narrow alley where shadows pooled thick and dark. Ella noticed how Roderick moved through them as if they were welcoming rather than ominous, how he seemed somehow more vivid in the darkness than he had in the cafe's light. I don't have many friends anymore, Ella admitted. I don't really have anyone, honestly. Just clients I email and a landlady I avoid. Isolation is a particular kind of prison, Roderick said quietly. I understand it well. Luna tugged on her father's jacket. Daddy, tell her about the lady with the ghost. Roderick smiled, a real smile that transformed his austere features. There was a woman named Julie who lived in one of these buildings in the 1830s. According to legend, her lover locked her on the roof during a winter storm as punishment for dancing with another man. She froze to death, and people claimed to see her still, walking the rooftop in her ball gown. That's horrible, Ella said. Yes, Roderick agreed with unexpected vehemence. Cruelty disguised as passion. I've always despised that particular human failing. The way he said human failing, as if categorizing it from outside, struck Ella as odd. But then he looked at her with such warmth that she dismissed the thought. I'm glad you joined us tonight, he said simply. And Ella realized, with a start, that she was glad too. For the first time since the fire, she felt something other than grief. She felt alive. October turned to November, then December. What began as a single shared table became a Thursday evening tradition. Ella would arrive at the crescent moon just as twilight painted the sky purple and gold, and Roderick and Luna would be waiting at their corner table. They fell into an easy rhythm, beignets and stories, walks through the quarter, Luna's endless questions and Ella's patient answers. Ella designed a logo for the cafe as a gift. Luna drew pictures of the three of them that Roderick kept in his wallet. Slowly, carefully, Ella felt herself becoming part of something she'd thought lost forever, a family. She noticed things, of course. The way Roderick never ate, only sipped espresso that went cold untouched. How his historical knowledge wasn't just academic but deeply personal, slipping occasionally into first person before he'd correct himself. The way other patrons unconsciously avoided their table, and how shadows seemed to bend toward him rather than away. But it was Luna who made her truly wonder. The child never seemed to age, not even slightly, though months had passed. Her observations were too knowing, her understanding of adult concepts too sophisticated for 7 years old. It was mid-December, during their walk through the quarter after a light rain, when everything changed. Luna had fallen asleep against Roderick's shoulder, exhausted from chasing pigeons in Jackson Square. The street was empty, gas lamps reflecting in puddles like fallen stars. Roderick stopped walking and turned to face Ella. There's something I need to tell you, he said quietly. Something I should have told you weeks ago, but He paused, and she saw real fear in his eyes. I was afraid of losing this. Losing you. Ella's heart began to race. Okay. What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but I need you to know the truth because you've become... He stopped, choosing his words carefully. You've become important to us.
To me.
And I cannot continue this deception. He took a breath he didn't need. I am vampire, Ella. I was born in 1692 in the French countryside. I've walked this earth for over 3 centuries. Luna is my daughter with my ex-wife, Scarlet, who is also vampire. Luna is damper, half mortal, half vampire. When she comes of age, she'll have to choose which nature to embrace fully. The words hung between them in the cool night air. Ella stared at him, her mind racing through every odd detail she'd catalogued over the months. His pallor, his old-fashioned speech, his impossible knowledge, the way he moved through shadows. The pieces fell into place with stunning clarity. She waited for fear to come. Instead, she felt a strange sense of relief, as if a puzzle she'd been unconsciously solving had finally revealed its picture. That explains so much, she said finally. Roderick blinked. You're not afraid? Should I be? Have you hurt anyone? Not in a very long time. I feed from volunteers, never to the point of harm. I've spent centuries trying to be better than what my nature demands. Ella looked at Luna, sleeping peacefully in her father's arms, then back at Roderick. You said you know what it means to lose a mortal family. You meant your original family. From the 1600s.
Yes.
I watched them all die, my parents, my siblings, their children, everyone I knew from my mortal life. I've watched centuries of humans live and die while I remain unchanged. His voice carried the weight of all those losses. It's why I understood your grief so completely. I've lived it dozens of times over. Centuries of it, Ella whispered. God, Roderick. That's why you said the pain transforms. You've had 300 years to learn how to carry it. She stepped closer to him, reaching up to touch his face. His skin was cool but not cold, smooth and perfect as marble. I'm not afraid of you, she said firmly. You've shown me more kindness in 3 months than anyone has in a year. You've made me feel human again, ironically enough. You and Luna, you've been the only light in my darkness. Something shifted in Roderick's expression, wonder mixed with something deeper, more dangerous. You're remarkable, do you know that? Most humans would run. But you stand here asking practical questions and offering comfort. Most vampires probably wouldn't have invited a broken stranger to share their table, Ella countered. But you did. You're not broken. His voice was fierce suddenly.
You're scarred, yes.
Wounded, yes. But not broken. Broken things don't rebuild themselves the way you have. They don't walk into crowded cafes on the anniversary of their worst nightmare demanding space in the world. Ella felt tears prick her eyes.
I'm mortal, Roderick.
I'm going to age and die while you stay exactly as you are. Isn't that a problem? And there it was, the question he'd been avoiding for weeks. Because somewhere between the first beignet and tonight, he'd fallen in love with her. With her mortality, her fierce resilience, her refusal to let tragedy define her. With the way she made him see the world as precious again instead of endless. Yes, he admitted. It terrifies me. Your life is a heartbeat compared to my eternity. But he shifted Luna gently to one arm and took Ella's hand with the other. You've taught me something I'd forgotten in 3 centuries. That a single beautiful moment can matter more than 1,000 empty years. That love doesn't require forever to be real. Ella squeezed his hand, feeling the strength in it, the centuries of survival. What happens now? Now, Roderick said softly, we choose what we're brave enough to risk. Ella was at Roderick's Garden District home for the first time, a stunning antebellum mansion hidden behind ancient oak trees and ornate iron gates, when Scarlet arrived. They'd been in the library, Roderick showing Ella his collection of first editions while Luna played with her vintage dolls on the Persian rug, when the temperature in the room dropped noticeably. Roderick's entire body went rigid. She's here, he said quietly, his voice tight with tension Ella had never heard before. The front door didn't open so much as simply allow entrance, and suddenly she was there. Scarlet was the most beautiful creature Ella had ever seen. Tall and regal, with midnight black hair that fell in perfect waves past her waist, skin like porcelain, and eyes the color of fresh blood. She wore a crimson dress that looked like it cost more than Ella's entire year's rent, and she moved with the fluid grace of a predator who had never known vulnerability. She was everything Ella was not: immortal, powerful, flawless, eternal. "Rodri," Scarlet said, her voice rich and commanding, holding centuries of authority. "It's been too long, Scarlet." Rodri stepped protectively between her and Ella. "You didn't mention you were coming. I don't require permission to visit my own daughter." Her red eyes slid to Luna, who had frozen on the floor, doll clutched to her chest. "Hello, little one. You've grown." "Hi, Mama," Luna said quietly, uncertainty clear in her voice. Scarlet's gaze finally landed on Ella, taking in every detail with predatory assessment: the crutches leaning against the bookshelf, the prosthetic leg, the worn jeans and simple sweater that suddenly felt shabby in this opulent room. "And who is this?" The question was directed at Rodri, but the dismissal in her tone was aimed squarely at Ella. "This is Ella Hayes," Rodri said carefully. "She's a friend." "Ella, this is Scarlet, Luna's mother." "A mortal friend," Scarlet observed, as if identifying a particularly unremarkable species of insect. "How quaint." Ella felt her cheeks flush but forced herself to stand, reaching for her crutches. "It's nice to meet you." Scarlet ignored the greeting entirely. "Rodri, might we speak privately? Anything you have to say can be said here." Scarlet's expression hardened.
Very well.
"I've returned to New Orleans permanently. I've purchased a property in the quarter and intend to resume my proper role in Luna's life." "You abandoned that role 5 years ago," Rodri said quietly but with steel underneath. "I stepped back to allow you your mortal fantasy," Scarlet corrected sharply. "Living among humans, pretending at normalcy, hiding what we are." "But Luna is 7 now, Rodri. She needs to learn her heritage, her power, her place in our world. She needs to be raised properly in vampire society, not playing house with mortals." Her eyes cut to Ella again, and the contempt was unmistakable. Luna stood up slowly, confusion and something that looked like hope warring on her small face. "Mama, are you staying? Are we going to be a family again?" Scarlet's expression softened slightly when she looked at her daughter. "That's exactly what I'm proposing. Luna, darling, wouldn't you like to have your mother and father together? A proper family, like in your storybooks?" Luna looked between her parents, torn. "I don't know." Scarlet turned back to Rodri. "She deserves to know her own kind, to understand the power in her blood, to be trained by those who can teach her to survive in our world, not to be coddled among fragile mortals who will be dust before she's even truly grown." The emphasis on fragile mortals was clearly directed at Ella, who felt each word like a physical blow. "Our relationship ended for good reasons," Rodri said firmly. "That hasn't changed." "But Luna's needs have," Scarlet countered. "Put aside your pride, Rodri. Think about what's best for our daughter. She needs stability, tradition, heritage. She needs a complete family within our society, not whatever this is." She gestured vaguely around the room, encompassing the cozy domesticity, the books, and by extension, Ella. Ella felt herself becoming smaller under Scarlet's withering assessment. Here was everything she could never be: eternal, powerful, belonging to Rodri's world in a way no mortal ever could. She was Luna's actual mother, the woman Rodri had loved enough to create a child with. What was Ella but a temporary distraction? A broken mortal who would age and die while they remained forever young and perfect? "Luna," Scarlet said gently, kneeling to her daughter's level with inhuman grace. "Wouldn't you like to learn what you're truly capable of? To meet others like us? To have your mother teach you the old ways?" Luna's eyes filled with confused tears. But what about Daddy? And Ella? Your father and I can find our way back to each other, Scarlet said smoothly. For you, darling. Because you deserve a real family. And as for Miss Hayes, she straightened, looking at Ella with something almost like pity. I'm sure she understands that mortals don't truly belong in our world. She'll move on with her brief little life, and you'll have what you've always deserved. Ella felt the words cut through her like razors, not because they were cruel, but because part of her believed they were true. Roderick's jaw tightened. Scarlet, that's enough. Whatever you think you're accomplishing. I'm offering our daughter a real future, Scarlet interrupted. Think about it, Roderick. For Luna's sake. She walked to the door with that same predatory grace, pausing only to look back at Luna. I'll return tomorrow, darling. We have so much to discuss. And then she was gone, leaving behind the scent of expensive perfume and the devastating weight of everything Ella could never be. Ella left Roderick's house that night with Scarlet's words echoing in her mind like a curse. Fragile mortals who'll be dust before she's even truly grown. She'll move on with her brief, little life. She tried to sleep, but all she could see was the contrast, Scarlet's timeless beauty and commanding presence against her own reflection in the mirror. A mortal woman with a prosthetic leg, trauma etched into every line of her face, already aging while Roderick remained frozen in eternal perfection. The next Thursday, she forced herself to go to the Crescent Moon. Roderick and Luna were already at their corner table, and Luna's face lit up when she saw Ella approaching.
Ella.
Guess what? Mama came to visit again yesterday. She brought me a dress from Paris. Real Paris, not the store. Luna bounced in her seat with excitement. She says when I'm older, she'll take me there. She says we could be a real family if Daddy would just stop being stubborn. Ella's heart constricted. She looked at Roderick, who was watching her with careful concern. Luna, it's more complicated than that, he said gently. But Mama says families are supposed to be together. She says I need to learn from my own kind, that I'm special and need special teaching. Luna looked between them with innocent hope. Don't you think that makes sense? It makes perfect sense, Ella heard herself say, her voice hollow. You should learn about your heritage. Roderick's eyes narrowed slightly.
Ella.
I should go, actually. I have a client deadline. It was a lie, but it came easily. I'll see you both later. She didn't wait for a response. Over the next week, Scarlet's presence in New Orleans became impossible to ignore. Luna mentioned her constantly. Mama took her to a special gathering. Mama introduced her to other Damper children. Mama said this. Mama promised that. And each mention was another nail in the coffin of Ella's hope. She was a temporary distraction in their eternal lives. A fragile mortal who would wither and die while they remained perfect and unchanged. What could she possibly offer Luna that her actual mother couldn't provide better? What could she give Roderick that would be worth watching her age and decay? The following Thursday, Ella sent a text. Not feeling well. Sorry to miss tonight. Roderick called immediately. She stared at his name on her screen and let it ring through to voicemail. His message was gentle, concerned. Ella, if this is about Scarlet, please let's talk. Call me back. She didn't. The Thursday after that, another text. Client emergency.
Can't make it.
This time, Roderick showed up at her apartment door. She didn't answer, standing frozen on the other side, hand pressed against the wood as he knocked. Ella, I know you're in there. Please. Luna is asking for you. I'm asking for you. She closed her eyes against the tears and said nothing. After a long moment, she heard him sigh. When you're ready to talk, I'm here. But please, don't disappear on us. But disappearing was exactly what she needed to do. For their sake. She stopped going to the Crescent Moon altogether. Stopped answering calls. Sent brief, polite responses to texts I'm fine, just busy. Talk soon. That said nothing at all. She watched from her apartment window one Thursday evening as twilight painted the sky, knowing they were at the cafe without her. Knowing Luna was probably asking where she was. Knowing Roderick was probably worried. But they would be fine. Better than fine. Scarlet could give them everything Ella couldn't: immortality, power, a proper family within their own world. Luna would learn her heritage. Roderick would have a partner who could walk through centuries with him instead of leaving him bereft after a few brief mortal decades. It was the right thing to do. The loving thing. Even if it was tearing her apart. 3 weeks after Scarlet's arrival, Ella was staring at her laptop without seeing it when her phone rang. Luna's name appeared on the screen. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up.
Ella?
Luna's voice was thick with tears. Why don't you want to be our friend anymore? What did I do wrong? Ella's heart shattered. Oh, sweetheart, you didn't do anything wrong. Then why won't you come see us? Daddy says you're busy, but I think you're sad. Are you sad because of my mama? Because she said some mean things?
Luna?
I don't care if Mama says mortals don't belong. You belong with us. You're my family too. The child was crying openly now. Please come back.
Please.
I miss you so much. Ella wiped at her own tears. I miss you too, little moon. Then come to the cafe tomorrow. Please? It's Thursday. It's our day. I can't, sweetheart. I can't. Why not? Because you deserve better. Because your mother is right. Because I'm broken and temporary, and I'll only hold you back. Because it's complicated, Ella whispered. That's what grown-ups say when they're too scared to tell the truth, Luna said with devastating insight. Daddy's scared too. He won't say it, but I can tell. He thinks you're leaving us forever.
Luna? Are you?
Leaving us forever. Ella couldn't speak past the lump in her throat. I love you, Ella, Luna said quietly. Doesn't that matter? And then she hung up, leaving Ella alone in her apartment, surrounded by the drawings Luna had made for her, the pressed flower petals from their walks, all the small treasures of a friendship, a family, she was destroying to save. The silence that followed hurt worse than anything Scarlet had said. Ella was staring at Luna's drawings spread across her coffee table when her phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. Roderick. May I come to your apartment? I need to speak with you. I won't enter without your permission. Even now, even angry or hurt, he honored the old rules. Vampires couldn't enter a home uninvited. Her hands trembled as she typed. Yes. He was at her door within minutes, faster than any human could have traveled across the quarter. She opened it to find him standing in the dim hallway, still dressed in his black velvet jacket, but his platinum hair was loose around his shoulders and his eyes held an intensity that made her breath catch. May I come in? He asked formally. Yes, she whispered. He stepped across the threshold and the door clicked shut behind him. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Why, he said finally, his voice rough with emotion. Why are you doing this? You know why, Ella said, wrapping her arms around herself. Scarlet is right. Luna deserves her heritage, her real family. You deserve someone who can walk through centuries with you, not someone who'll be gone in the blink of an eye. I'm in the way. In the way, Roderick repeated, and something dangerous flashed in his eyes. You think you're in the way. Aren't I? Luna's mother is back. She's immortal, powerful, everything I'm not. She can teach Luna things I never could, give her a proper vampire family. Stop. The command in his voice made her fall silent. You're making assumptions, Ella. Let me tell you the truth about Scarlet and me. He moved further into the small apartment, his presence filling the space. Scarlet and I didn't end because of circumstance or bad timing. We ended because we wanted fundamentally different lives. She craves power, position, the politics and brutality of vampire society. She wants to climb hierarchies and command respect through fear.
I chose différently. I chose qui est.
I chose Luna's happiness over ambition. I chose to live among humans because I was tired of the endless, empty games of immortality. He turned to face her directly. When Scarlet looks at Luna, she sees potential, a powerful weapon to be honed, a successor to build her legacy. When I look at Luna, I see my daughter who loves beignets and collecting flower petals and asking impossible questions. Scarlet wants to mold her into something formidable. I want her to simply be happy. But Luna needs to know her heritage. And she will, Rodri interrupted. On her terms, when she's ready, in ways that don't require her to sacrifice her joy. But that has nothing to do with Scarlet and me reconciling. That door closed years ago, and Luna's return doesn't reopen it. Ella shook her head, tears streaming down her face. But I'm still mortal, Rodri. I'm still temporary. In 50 years, I'll be old, and you'll be exactly as you are now. In 70, I'll be dead, and you'll have centuries more to live. How can that possibly work? Do you love me? He asked suddenly. The question stopped her cold. What? Do you love me, Ella? Because I need to know before I say what I'm about to say. That's not fair. Do you love me? Yes. The word burst from her like a confession torn from her soul. Yes, I love you. I love you so much it terrifies me. I love the way you see the world after 3 centuries like it's still full of wonder. I love how gentle you are with Luna, how you've never once made me feel broken, how you talk about history like poetry. I love that you honor old rules and value kindness over power. I love you, and that's exactly why I have to let you go. Rodri crossed the space between them in an instant, his hands cupping her face with infinite tenderness. Your mortality doesn't make you less, he said fiercely. It makes you precious. Every moment with you matters because it's finite, because it's real, because you choose to spend your limited time on this earth with us. You taught me to see wonder in single moments again, after centuries of numbness. You taught Luna that family isn't about blood or power, but about choosing to show up, to care, to love despite fear. His thumb wiped away her tears. You're not an obstacle to my family, Ella. You are my family, and I am terrified of losing you, not because you'll age and I won't, but because you're choosing to leave. Because you're letting Scarlet's poison convince you that you're not worthy when you're the most worthy person I've met in 300 years. But I would rather have 50 mortal years with you than 1,000 empty centuries without you, he said, his voice breaking. I would rather watch you grow old, see silver in your hair and lines around your eyes that come from laughing with us, than spend eternity wondering what we could have been. Your temporary nature doesn't make our love less real. It makes it more sacred. Ella's breath came in short gasps. What if it's not enough? What if? What if it's everything? Rodri countered. What if this you and me and Luna, what if this fragile, impossible, beautiful thing we've built is exactly what we're meant to have?
Scarlet, ella whispered.
So am I, Rodri admitted. I'm 300 years old, and I'm terrified. But I'm more afraid of losing you to your fear than I am of facing the future together. I don't want to hold you back. I don't want to be the reason Luna doesn't learn who she is. You could never hold us back. You've given us more light in 4 months than Scarlet provided in years. Luna doesn't need vampire politics and power plays. She needs love, acceptance, and people who see her as more than her potential. She needs you. Rodri's forehead rested against hers. I need you, he said softly. Please stop running from us. Stop running from this. Ella's hands came up to grip his jacket, holding onto him like an anchor. I love you. I'm so afraid, but I love you. Then be afraid with me, Roderick whispered. But be with me. And then he kissed her, soft and careful at first, as if she might break, and she kissed him back with all the desperate love and fear and hope she'd been holding inside. His lips were cool against hers, but the emotion behind the kiss was burning. Centuries of loneliness meeting months of isolation and finding home in each other. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless despite only one of them needing air, Ella was crying again. I'm still going to die someday, she said. I know, Roderick said gently. And I will carry you with me after, the way I've carried every person I've ever loved. But right now you're here, and that's enough. That's everything. Ella buried her face in his chest, feeling his arms wrap around her with infinite care. Okay, she whispered. Okay.
I'm so sorry I ran.
You're here now, he said simply. That's what matters. The morning after Roderick's midnight confession, he sat Luna down in their library and told her the truth. I need to talk to you about grown-up things, he said gently, lifting her onto his lap. About your mama and me, and about Ella. Luna nodded seriously, her curly hair bouncing. Your mama and I loved each other once, but we wanted different lives. That's why we're not together anymore, and that won't change. It's not your fault, and it's not something you can fix, sweetheart. But Mama said. I know what Mama said. But sometimes grown-ups want things that aren't right for everyone. Your mama loves you, and she'll always be your mother. But she and I won't be together again. Luna was quiet for a moment. Because you love Ella? Yes, Roderick said simply. I love Ella very much.
How do you feel about that?
Luna thought carefully the way she always did about important things. Ella makes you smile more. And she makes me feel like it's okay to be different. Mama makes me feel like I have to be perfect. She looked up at her father. Is it okay if I love them both, but like Ella better for every day? Roderick pulled her close. That's perfectly okay, little moon. Then I'd choose Ella too, Luna said firmly. She's our family. 2 days later, Scarlet requested to meet Ella at the Crescent Moon. Ella almost refused, but Roderick encouraged her. Face her as an equal, he said. You are not less than her. Scarlet was already seated when Ella arrived, looking impossibly elegant in a silver dress. Ella sat across from her, crutches propped against the familiar corner table, and waited. I underestimated you, Scarlet said finally. I assumed a mortal would be easy to intimidate away. I almost was, Ella admitted. But you came back. And more importantly, my daughter is happier with you in her life than she ever was in mine. Scarlet's voice held something almost like respect. I wanted Luna to be powerful, formidable. You taught her to be kind. Perhaps that's more valuable. She can be both, Ella said quietly. Kind and powerful. Scarlet smiled, a real smile, not the predatory one. Indeed. I propose a truce. I'll remain in Luna's life, teach her our ways when she's ready. But I won't interfere with what Roderick has built here, with what you've built together. I can agree to that, Ella said. For Luna's sake. They parted with mutual understanding, if not friendship. 8 months after that first shared table, on a perfect October evening when twilight painted the sky in shades of purple and gold, Roderick brought Ella back to their corner table at the Crescent Moon. I have something to ask you, he said, taking her hand. I've spent months researching, calling in ancient favors. I have 2 options to offer you. Ella's heart raced. I've found a way to become mortal again. A ritual that would give me a human lifetime, 70, maybe 80 years if we're lucky. We would grow old together, live mortal lives, and leave this world at relatively the same time. He paused, his pale eyes holding hers. Or I can offer you eternity. The turning is painful, and there's no going back. But we would have forever, you, me, and Luna, for as long as the world turns. You'd give up immortality for me?
Ella whispered.
Without hesitation, Roderick said. The choice is entirely yours. I will love you regardless, for whatever time we have. Ella looked around the cafe, at the table where strangers had become family, at the window overlooking the street where they'd walked countless evenings, at Luna coloring in the corner with fierce concentration. I choose eternity, she said firmly. Not because I'm afraid of dying, but because I want forever with you. With both of you. I want to see Luna grow up, to walk these streets for centuries, to build a life that doesn't end. Roderick's smile was radiant. Are you certain? I've never been more certain of anything. 6 months later, as spring bloomed across New Orleans, they held their bonding ceremony at the Crescent Moon. The cafe was closed to regular customers, filled instead with an unusual mix, mortals and vampires, friends from both worlds, all gathered to witness the impossible. Ella wore a simple white dress and her prosthetic leg, decorated now with delicate silver filigree that Luna had designed. She was immortal now, transformed 3 months earlier, but she'd kept the prosthetic as a choice, a reminder of her human life, of the fire that had brought her here. Luna, in a pink dress covered in flower petals, walked down the aisle scattering more petals. Roderick waited at the corner table, and when Ella joined him there, he took her hands. You asked to share this table, he said softly, and you gave me back my heart. You said yes, Ella replied, and you gave me back my life. Their vows were simple but sacred, witnessed by 2 worlds united in love. 1 year later, Ella sat at their corner table with Luna, teaching her to draw perspective. Her immortal vision made the details sharper, but her heart remained unchanged. Roderick arrived with beignet, kissing Ella's temple before sitting. A nervous young person approached, eyes darting around the crowded cafe, clearly searching for a place to belong. Excuse me, they said softly. Would you mind if I shared this table with you? Ella smiled, recognizing herself in that desperate hope. She moved her crutches to make room. Of course. Please sit down. Luna looked up and grinned. Do you like beignet? And the cycle of kindness continued, as it always would, at the corner table where broken things became whole and strangers became family, one shared moment at a time. If this story of unexpected family and choosing love over fear touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to remember that belonging isn't about being perfect, it's about being brave enough to ask. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and help us spread stories that heal. You're part of our family now. Thanks for watching.